Good morning. My name is Sarah Adelaide O'Danton, and I'm the head of trade services for the UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce, proud sponsors of the Ghana Country Summit at AFSIC this year. This morning, we've put together a panel, a strong panel, I believe, to sell Ghana, to let you all know Ghana is open for investment, Ghana is open for business, and that we're doing everything we can to make sure that you get significant outcomes for all your investments. I would go straight away to introduce the panel. We don't have much time, so quickly, we have Mr. Kojo Intrakwa, who is a partner with Intrakwa & Co., a law firm in Ghana. Please join us on the stage. We have Mr. George Fuachi, who is the head of special projects and investor relations at GCB Bank. We also have Mr. David Tete, who is a senior consultant at the Ghana Investment Support Program. David, can you join us? We have Mr. Musa Abdul Rahman, who is the acting chief corporate development, government institution, and SME banking officer at the National Investment Bank of Ghana. We have Mr. John Shishitano, who is the managing director of Pandia Global Ventures. We have Mr. Kwabna Painting, director, Verdant Capital, Ghana. And lastly, we have, who will be joining us later, Mrs. Diana Addo, who is the Minister and Head of Trade and Investments at the Ghana High Commission here in London. Thank you. We will dive straight. Okay. I guess I'll stand. Okay. You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. So just to set the scene for this morning's discussion, I'll just ask for a minute of comments from Mr. David Tete and Kwabna Painting on investment outlook in Ghana. Just a minute. What your comments are. Is it positive, negative, about to do well, about to climb? Please let us know.
Okay. Thank you. I think it's positive.
Sure.
Most people in Ghana, if you ask, are now cautiously optimistic. I mean, we all know we saw some significant GDP growth in the last maybe 5 years, and then we had DDP coming in. We saw a decline in GDP growth. We didn't go into negative anyway, and there was DDP, and there was a significant loss of market confidence. Many financial institutions have gone through their own restructuring. Talk about banks who had to, saw significant losses in capital, insurance companies, pension funds that saw significant mark-to-market losses, and generally the investment climate was quite slow. Let me say, this year we seem to have turned the corner. We can look at the macros to start with. We've seen decline in interest rates, which are very positive. We've seen at least some stability in the exchange rates. In the last few days, we've seen the CD starting to appreciate again with a few interventions. So overall, let me say we are turning the corner. We are cautiously optimistic. We talk about the power sector, which has been also quite critical. We've seen the government making significant inroads into resettling or settling some of the outstanding debts. So all headed in the right direction. So for us, especially from where I sit, we think that we are turning the corner, and we are all cautiously optimistic that we're at the beginning of heading back into the capital markets and having overall confidence in the economy.
Thank you, David, for your generous appraisal. Over to you, Kwabna.
Thank you, Adelaide. I think
your view.
I think David's view sort of paints a really good picture. So I'm going to switch over and talk about it maybe from an investment point of view. And I think, generally speaking, Ghana is and continues to be one of those countries where a long-term view on growth and sustainability is what will continue to take us forward, with some of the points that he's made becoming, the core of focus, where it gives us stability and gives us assurance. We'll continue to be able to make investments that would run through various aspects of the economy. Positive, yes. Are we still able to attract? We still continue to try and attract people into different sectors. Not all sectors will hold the same sort of promises, but as you look at it across, you look at the playing field, you tend to see that we do have a confident private sector that would continue to grow. So yes, it's a very positive outlook, and we continue to be encouraged by what Ghana offers.
Okay, before I move on with your own questions, how does Ghana's investment climate look like when you compare to our peers?
Compared to our peers?
How are we doing?
We'll need a few hours for that, but I think I'll probably answer this question by being more specific. Okay. FinTech is a growing area, and Ghana seems to be showing good signs of support coming in from there. Ghana has always been a strong, always had strong potential for agriculture. We're seeing more and more agriculture or agricultural businesses unveil itself in Ghana. We're also seeing in Ghana a new uptake where now you have even Chinese companies setting up manufacturing in Ghana, and that is very promising. Aquaculture is also something that's also doing well in Ghana. How do we compare to our peers? I think a lot of our peers, and before I even finished, of course, we have our extractive industries, which are also showing, very bullish resilience within the market with the growth in pricing of other types of commodities. Most of our peers tend to also have some of what Ghana has, but I think Ghana generally has more, and it's more for Ghana to sell that more to be able to attract a lot more investment, and that touches on policies and all those other things that come with it.
Right. Thank you, Kwabna. I'll move straight to Kojo. So what is Ghana doing in terms of the regulatory environment that would support inflow of investments?
Thank you. So historically, Ghana has had a bit of a challenge in terms of the ease of doing business. And so in the last 6 years, we've looked to reform our laws. We've changed our Companies Act. We now have a new Companies Act that makes it possible for online registration. This is something that should have been years ago, but it's here now. Again, it's added more shareholder protection. Okay. We've improved on our corporate insolvency and restructuring laws. In the past, we didn't have administration. Now we have administration. So it's possible for a company, instead of collapsing, to explore administration with the hope of resurrecting and then continuing. That is the few things we've done, but the future looks promising, because we now have a Ghana Investment Promotion Authority bill. And to borrow the words of our politicians, it's a game changer, right? Critically, the minimum capital requirements that used to be there, we are looking to take that away so that you can invest in Ghana without meeting the minimum capital requirements.
Right. So you mentioned the GIPC. In the past, it's really been a hurdle for investors. How soon do we expect to find it finalized? Within a year? in the next year.
Okay, the appetite.
Because then that will show how serious we are about driving investments within the next 3 years.
The appetite is there. I can't give timelines because I'm not the one running the running point on that. But I know the political will is there, and the head of the GIPC is eager to get this done.
Sure. Thank you very much. So that we've just been joined by Mrs. Diana Ado, who is the Minister and Trade and Investment Attaché at the Ghana High Commission in London. She'll be joining us, so I guess she'll be able to throw more light on the GIPC Act. We want to see, want to explore everything we need to take away from that. Please join us, Mrs. Diana Ado. Okay, sure. Okay. Get your mic. Okay. Back to you, Kojo. So how complex is it, especially when you're advising on large-scale investments or transactions? How complex is that, dealing with Ghana's law, as in interfacing with Ghana's laws against very complex international investments?
For what I said, it is not complex.
Not complex.
It is simple and straightforward once you've got the correct assistants, professionals across board. From accountants to lawyers, make sure you have a good team around you, and it's straightforward. I mean, for example, in terms of setting up a company, you can have this done in a day if you have the correct professionals behind you. I've heard stories where it's taken months, but on average, I think it's about 5 days maximum to incorporate a company in Ghana. So it's not complex, it's investor friendly.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to hear now from our practitioners, the banks. I'll start off with George. How resilient is our financial services sector? We've seen a lot of happenings, a lot of ins and outs. How resilient or how strong have you grown after all these hurdles and ups and downs?
Thank you very much. So, yeah, the good news is the financial services sector, especially the banking sector, is very resilient. So if you go back, say, 2017-ish, there was the financial sector cleanup. Fast forward to 2022, December, where the domestic debt exchange was announced. Clearly, there were challenges with government assessing the international financial market. So there was the need for some level of impact locally. So the government bonds were impaired, and that impacted the financials of the banks very significantly. So for my bank, for example, in 2022, we took a hit of about $150 million on our books as a result of the impairment of the government exposure. We registered a loss of about $61 million same year. But just the next year, we recorded a record profit of about $130 million.
Okay.
And the capital adequacy, which was about 7.6 as a result of the impairment of the books, currently is around 18.7. It tells you the transition. Half-year performance has also been very strong. In fact, our share price has doubled from January this year, call it December last year to now. So the opportunity is there. However, the dynamics of the market is changing, and it's changing very rapidly. There's a lot of regulation as a result of what I've just described, because then there were factors that were attributed to the cause of the financial sector cleanup. So there's been a slew of regulations coming from the regulator to strengthen the operating environment. A lot of banks have had changes in terms of risk management or strengthening their risk management regimes. Even from a corporate governance perspective, there's been a number of changes. So, yes, these have engendered, a strong base for growth. However, the environment is changing because there's a strong dose of technology that has to be introduced, digitalization especially. The fintechs are giving the banks a run for their money. And also the after effect of the DDEP is that what we all learned in school, that government exposure is risk-free, has been tinkered with. So now banks are being forced from a regulatory side, because there is a dynamic reserve ratio requirement. So the more you are able to lend, don't want to sound too technical, but the more you are able to lend, the less you have to reserve. And so banks are being forced to actually do lending, as opposed to some years ago where, based on what they perceived to be the risks, they were lending a lot more to government, which was crowding out the private sector. But in all, 23 banks, largely sound. There are about 3 which are not systemically important, which have had some challenges. But overall, the banking sector is resilient, and it is up to banks to figure out how to compete going forward, because now there's proper banking as opposed to the armchair one where we traditionally would have bought some bonds and some T-bills to manage our risk profiles, yes.
Yes, I was going to follow up with that, with a question on how your bank is deploying private capital, impact funds to help your clients.
Okay, so the bank traditionally has been, call it shy, banks generally. So I'll give you an example. Lending to agriculture is about 4% of the total lending book of banks. In fact, banks that were dedicated and established for agric have traditionally even shied away from agric. And that necessitated a conversation change, okay, to say, yes, the challenges are real, and it's not to say nothing is happening in those sectors, especially in the agricultural sector, which seems to be one of the key pillars for what has been touted as the 24-hour economy. It is basically to drive growth and change in the country. So our approach as a bank has been to partner a number of institutions, and in fact, that's what has brought us to AFSIC 2025 in the area of concessional funding, because the traditional funding approach is not enough to support the growth agenda that the government and the banks are desiring to achieve. Even the tenor, the tenor is quite short for lending. So typically lending that should take a tenor of up to say 10 years, you see banks forcing up to the short end of the tenor. Lending had traditionally also been towards the commercial side, commerce, which is short term and self-liquidating. Now we have to go into infrastructure investments, we have to go into manufacturing for exports, agriculture, the whole value chain, and also some element of green financing. And that's how come we're looking for some level of concessional funding, because that by itself would unlock the balance sheet of banks in Ghana, who traditionally have been a bit coy about some of these sectors I've referred to. There is also some level of guarantees that we are expecting or hoping for, which would, as I said, would unleash the capital of these banks. If agriculture is only taking 4% of the exposure across the banking sector, I should tell you what it is. Much more SMEs, who traditionally have had challenges because they are largely informal in the sense that they are largely, about 92% or so, are not registered. Neither do they have proper banking arrangements. And so the bank's appetite to these areas is a bit cautious, heavy dose of collateral, etc. So once there's some element of guarantee which de-risks the space, then that whole portfolio in terms of capital of the banks can then be unleashed to bring the necessary transformation. And of course, there's the green conversation. Government has taken some steps. In fact, there's a full ministry for green climate change and sustainability. The Ministry of Energy has also expanded its remit into green initiatives or transition. So, yes, our quest here is to onboard some partnerships that would help us impact a lot more than we traditionally have. Yes.
Right. So, in essence, the financial services sector is strong and robust, and you're ready
it is strong
to deploy?
Yes, it is robust.
More capital?
It is, yes, the risk profile of the banks in terms of NPL has, of course, based on the DDEP, has been coming down. Averagely, it's around 20%. But a lot of these have been provided for by the banks over time. Of course, the DDEP required that you couldn't take the impact in a year, so there was some element of easing. But there are huge opportunities. The banks, I see them being a lot more impactful than they traditionally have been. And the central bank is also watching a lot of interventions in the foreign exchange space. So someone used the expression a few minutes ago, there's a lot more convergence in terms of everything pointing in the right direction. And with the experience of the banks over the years, I believe there will be a lot more impact than we traditionally have seen.
Thank you very much, George. I'll move on to Musa. Yes, so traditionally, NIB, your bank, was established for industrialization. What are you doing now? What is Ghana doing now? Because I know that you've been drafted into the National Industrialization Development Plan. So what is Ghana doing now in order to get a lot more patient capital into the industrialization space?
Okay, thank you very much. For industrialization, it has become very much compelling now than ever before. And you would realize that the president a number of times has gone out of the country to be able to seek for some sort of bilateral support to support the 24-hour economy plus. The 24-hour economy, some people, when they don't understand that, they think that, okay, it's just about people getting a job, another person leaving that job, another person coming. No, there is more to that. Out of this 24-hour economy, we're looking at ecological setup. That ecological setup, the Volta Basin has been chosen for that. And with that one, it is looking at transportation, that is water transport, rail transport, and improvement in the road sector. It is also looking at agricultural sector. Somebody has also mentioned that. In time past, we have been noted for exporting of raw materials. We want to move from exporting of raw material to addition of value. And for that matter, industries will be set up out of that, within that same ecological zone. And when you produce within that ecological zone, obviously it has to find its way to the market. And indeed, all this, the government decision to do that is to prevent institutions or industries being set up in silos. All right? In doing this, it requires some sort of funding and patient capital for that matter. You probably not see the very huge type of industry, but you see many more smaller industries that will feed into this. At the end of the day, we develop that sort of capacity to be able to export. And for NIB, as you rightly said, we were set up about 60 years ago to support industrialization, support agri, and then also support commerce. So we have come to the realization that no, if we need to promote industrialization, obviously we need patient capital, as George rightly mentioned. Sometimes we force or we compress the tenants of facilities, which often lead to restructuring, which is not, you turn a good company otherwise into a very bad company, not because they are not capable or they are not able to manage, but because the tenant was relatively quite small. So we are out to provide the patient capital that is needed. One, to be able to support the production. Two, to be able to support the processing. And three, to be able to support the commerce aspect of it, that is the market. So we go through all the value chain to make sure that industrialization actually succeeds. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Musa. Quite insightful. So a few industries been mentioned there where we are looking to move along with Ghana's industrialization plan. I will move straight to Kwabna at the far end. Mm-hmm. Now we want to look at the investment ecosystem, really. And what opportunities exist in Ghana as from an investor or an investment perspective? What opportunities do you think, or which areas are necessary to help with Ghana's industrialization agenda?
Okay, thank you. I think we've touched on a few of them.
Yes.
Some of the critical ones that would normally would have expected to have catapulted us to add more industry into what it is that we do, like agriculture and the processing. And I'm happy to hear my fellow panelists also mention some of the areas in agriculture that finance is also being focused on. I think, notwithstanding just the benefits of agriculture, you need to also piggyback on the climate interests that impacts, because that also attracts a lot of finance. There's a lot of money for climate-related type activities, which are also buried into some of what we do in basic agriculture. There's also a lot of attraction in some of the traditional areas, which are financial services, maybe more on the technology side. I see more and more people becoming more innovative in some of what they do in technology. If Mr. Musa's bank wanted to lend to a 1-acre farmer, he'll be challenged by the obvious opportunities of where's the farm, what does he grow, what's his average yield, et cetera, et cetera. Today and I'm quite happy talking about this because I did meet a guy who's also into technology, and they're finding ways of being able to give me a location of the farm. Where is it? Can I see what he makes on average over the last 2 years, for instance? And because it's cyclical, he can now have documentation to walk to him and say, look, I don't need a lot of money, but we're a big association. So then that becomes of interest to him. So that technology being able to be transferred to a very small scale farming opportunity now expands his ability to give credit. So he doesn't have to do the 200 members within that little association, but he can probably maybe do 1 or 2 loans. And I think that adds a lot more opportunity. So that's on the technology side. And of course, you've got other various forms of financial technology that always would be an attraction into Ghana. And then of course, increasingly with predictability of power and steadying of power, we're also seeing manufacturing is also trying to make its way back. I've met companies in Ghana that are into manufacturing, believe it or not, and these are diaper producers in Ghana. And I think I was talking to one of my colleagues earlier. I didn't know this 6 months ago, but they're doing it. They're doing soap manufacturing or powder soap manufacturing. The point that I'm making is that putting together the basics that attract business is also bringing business back into the economy. So these are the areas that I have seen. And traditionally, we've invested in financial services across the continent, including Ghana. And I'm also looking at more and more additional things that would impact on what we're doing in Ghana and what Ghana offers, and how we can also leverage on what some of our good men and women are doing. Thank you.
You work a lot with SMEs. I want to ask, how ready, investment ready are they typically? I have had the chance to bring some SMEs to AFSIC in the past, and most of them are not really ready. So how ready are there, can you say that you're sure you can find, say, a pipeline of 20 SMEs ready to take up capital?
So that's the hardest part of the job. I think finding, everybody says they're ready, but 99% of them are not. So having access to the basic information that would put me in a position to be able to look at your readiness is always going to be a weakness. I think if we're talking about people who are ready, there are certain sectors where by default you need to have information, so those are able to offer you some sort of information. But it's really our ability to work across the entire scale of, information readiness, investor readiness, whether the philosophy of the business in itself is looking at it in a very constrained way, or whether you're growing your business in an unconstrained way that gives you the upsides of growth that you can get because you're bringing in an investor. The investor is not there to bail you out. The investor is there to make money, and he's being attracted to what it is that you're doing, and if you can scale it up beyond where you're going. And we don't have a lot of it.
Okay.
We do have some of it. We are identifying and finding these kind of opportunities where we can continue to bring investments into Ghana, and we've been successful at it. So being able to do some is always a good step. I think the inspiration that other companies get from the fact that we've been able to invest in a company always gives room for people to start preparing themselves. But if we're saying, are we ready to receive $100 million in private equity investment tomorrow morning into maybe 20 different companies, I'll say we'll have to find it with we'll need a magnifying glass. But I'm saying that I think it's getting better.
Better, and that's where I want John to come in, because I know you do a lot of work in terms of investment readiness. Would you want to speak on what support is available for these SMEs?
Yes, before I do that though, I want to ask a question. We're a small group here. How many of us are already living or working in Ghana? And then those who are not yet living or working in Ghana? Okay, we have 10 maybe. So I want to be frank here and just open up, maybe be a bit provocative. So the 10 of you that are not working in Ghana, these are the ones we want to speak to. Those of you who are already in Ghana, you know the opportunities. But we need to do better to shine a light on the opportunities in Ghana. We all know up here, I think those of you in the audience know that there are some very compelling investment opportunities in Ghana. But how can we more effectively attract the 10 of you? We need a full room of people who don't yet invest in Ghana. We're here at AFSIC. And so how can we do a bit better to show the opportunities? Because if we don't have a full room, we're missing out. So let's commit to finding how we can fill the room and tell the story of Ghanaian companies. And that's what we like to do at Pangea. We like to shine the light on companies. We don't talk much about policy. It's important. The investment context is important. But what are the actual opportunities to invest in companies? And I agree, 99% aren't ready. But if there are 10,000 companies, well, that means 100 are ready, and let's find the 100 that are ready. And some of them may be not quite ready, but they're very compelling, and if we can help them with a better pitch deck or maybe some financial projections, we do this work with David and his team and others, then these compelling companies will attract the capital to Ghana. And we always like to talk about those companies, the pipeline, and I'll just say we have a QR code with our pipeline of companies in Ghana and other West African countries. Let me give just one example for now. Lion Agro is a brilliant entrepreneur who's in the soybean and shea value chain. So soybean does extremely well in northern Ghana. Lion Agro works with over 5,000 soybean farmers, helps them to be more productive, to increase their yields by providing them with improved seed and fertilizer so that they can prosper and they can deliver more soybean to Lion Agro, which will then process that soybean into soybean oil and soybean cake. The soybean cake has a very good market in Ghana among poultry producers. The soybean oil, they actually export a lot of them, getting a higher value from the export markets of soybean oil. The entrepreneur who will actually be here this afternoon, if anyone wants to meet him, I'll be glad to introduce you to him. A Princeton graduate, came back to Ghana shortly after he finished his studies to start this business. And so they're now ramping up their capacity to process shea and soybean oil, nut into oils and cake, which has a very robust market both domestically and internationally. Just one example, but yes, the Indians and the Chinese are investing in Ghana, but the local companies are also, they're very compelling, but we need to show the world, yes, these are companies, we have a list of them, they're ready, come to Ghana, have a look, take a look at their financial statements, meet the founders, and you'll be convinced that it's not only Kenya and Nigeria and South Africa, but Ghana has very attractive opportunities. Come have a look.
Thank you, John. Thank you. I will go to David, and then I'll come to you, Mrs. Diana Addo, because we want to have the last word from government. That's it. Okay, so David, we're looking at getting SMEs ready. John has positioned that Ghana is indeed ready. There are businesses, the opportunities for investments. I would like you to talk about partnerships. Okay, so for other investors or companies looking to invest or looking to partner with some existing institutions in Ghana, how easy is this? How are we doing it? You can talk from BII's experience or perspective.
Thanks, Sarah. I think you can go back 2 years ago when BI wanted to start what we call the Ghana Investment Support Program. So I do lead a program in Ghana, which was initially funded by BI, called the Ghana Investment Support Program. We have an overall mandate to try and get more investments to flow to Ghanaian SMEs. And we do this through partnerships, right? So we have a broad mandate of getting more capital to flow to SMEs in Ghana. That means we are tackling the entire ecosystem, right? So we started from the capital problem. So BI put up a 50 million fund in Ghana, mainly for Ghanaian SMEs. And we looked at what do Ghanaian SMEs like, what instruments do they like. Equity, a lot of private equity, was available. It hadn't been too successful. We had a few success stories. So we said, okay, why don't we do debt, right? And debt, self-liquidating debt. So we set up a fund that is doing debt, and we don't want to compete with a bank. So we say, let's offer more tenor and more flexibility. So the capital, it can be local capital. We lend in CD, we lend in USD, depending on the SME and what their revenues, what currency their revenues come in. We can do 10 years, and we don't take the collateral that the banks require. So it's more flexible, and then it comes with technical assistance. So if you take a facility, you're able to benefit from some consultant or some person that will come in there and sit with you, especially if you are doing something around impact. So we've got several companies that we've worked with. We help them to become investor ready, and then we match them with the capital, and we also help them to become more impactful. On the transaction advisory side, there's capital available in Ghana, lots of it. Kwabna's fund is there, GIP is there, which is BI's fund, many other private equity funds. The banks have capital sitting in there. You heard them saying they want to deploy, right? But there's a bridge. Who are the people that are going out there to work with SMEs and bring them to the capital? So we call them transaction advisors. We've got people like John Pangia, whose main task it is to work with SMEs. So we put together a group of transaction advisors like John. We got the Big Four to also sign a compact with us to offer reduced services for SMEs. So these advisors are continuously looking out for SMEs and matching them to the capital. But it's a thankless job sometimes. When you work with the SMEs, they can't immediately pay you, right? Some of them like the services, but they don't want to pay, right? One of the things we are doing is to set up a whole risk share facility that will help transaction advisors prepay for the work they are doing with SMEs, and then we can match them to capital. Then you've got the SMEs themselves. First point of call, a bank, right? But the banks are not there to do value creation. So you go to a bank and you complain that banks are not giving you money. That's not what they are there for. Start from somewhere where you can build some value. So you are working with a lot of people in the ecosystem, even teaching the SMEs and the entrepreneurs how to become more efficient, how to run your business, improve your books. So we have a whole program, and especially something around legal and compliance. File the things you need to file. Pay your taxes, right? File at the GRA. Be compliant. And if you do that, then there's a carrot at the end of the road where you can't get capital. Then we match them to transaction advisors. Some of the companies John has mentioned came out of the program that we supported them to do, finding SMEs and taking them all the way to capital. So from where we sit, we're taking a full ecosystem view. We're working with banks as well, right? Some of the banks, the support we've given them are around helping them build their SME lending books, helping them to do design gender products because we are more impact driven, right? Helping them improve agri-lending, helping them improve climate lending. So we've issued a lot of thought leadership, research, seminars that we, engage with the banks. So we're working with them overall. Some of them are in pole position to also get funding from BI, right? Benefiting from the technical assistance that we provide. So that's what we've been doing in Ghana. We've seen some, early successes, and especially now that the macros are improving, we're starting to see a lot more potential demand coming through the market. One of the critical areas, and let me touch on, is that in Ghana, we also have $6 billion in local pension funds, right? So over the last 15 years, pension contributions have grown significantly, managed by private sector fund managers. And that's now $6 billion. Now you can imagine unlocking that or some amount of money from that pool to invest in a direct economy. That impact will be huge. Of course, the pension fund managers do not have all the skill sets to invest directly. So we have a year-long program where we've been training them in how to invest in alternates. We're actually graduating them next week. So in a year, they'll be learning how to invest in alternates. And we do this by bringing in international partners. So we've got people like FMO, of course, VI is there, Kuramo, and partners that have invested actively in Africa that understand what it takes to assess companies and invest in them. And we're working closely with our pension funds. Each of the pension funds have been allocated an advisor. So if you want to look at a company, you want to look at a project and you have a challenge, you can call on your advisor, whether in FMO or somewhere, and ask them how to analyze this. So through that, we're expecting to unlock about $300 to $400 million immediately from local capital, right? And that they would work with people who have done it before and then start deploying this in the real economy. We have some pension funds that are talking to the government, seeing where they can plot, their investments in terms of the 24-hour economy, etc. So that is something that we are actively, building. And partnerships is the way to go. You've got people who are sitting on the funds, are managing it, but they have a risk aversion. They don't understand the power sector. They don't understand agric, right? They don't understand healthcare. So we are trying to match them with people who do, so that they take baby steps in investing. It's pension money. You don't want to go on pension and not be able to receive your, the money you've so worked hard on. So we are trading cautiously. But overall, we are trying to map or weave this web where we create a local, strong ecosystem. And we are doing this through partnerships.
Thank you very much. So indeed, we need to get more partners on board. Yes, thank you very much.
If you listen to this and you feel that, look, I can contribute,
yes,
on the funding side, we're happy to work with you. I'm a TA, I'm a middleman, I build the bridges, we're happy to work with you. I'm an SME, I'm looking to raise capital, we're again happy to work with you.
Thank you very much, David. Finally, we're moving to Mrs. Diana Ado. Would like to hear from you what some of the structural reforms in terms of an enabling business environment in Ghana, just to help Ghana compete with, among its peers.
Thank you very much. And I'm sorry to be late. I had to close from one meeting and rush to this place. So sorry for being late. And then thank you, colleagues from Ghana, for the contribution you've made so far. If we are talking about reforms, I was in charge of business regulatory reforms before I came last year. There are lots that we are doing to make the environment conducive for businesses to thrive. And I must say that there are a lot of companies that are doing so well in Ghana. And if you want to invest, of course, the challenge that we've realized is supply side constraint. So most of them have gone from the SMEs, they've, for about 10 years, 15 years, be able to develop their product to a certain point. Yesterday, I showed a product of SME to somebody here, and I was like, this one can compete in any supermarket in UK. So these people have grown up to that level, and they need capital from commercial bank, from NIB, from all my colleagues here, to be able to produce in large quantity and also become efficient. So if you are here and interested in investing in any of the sector, you are humbly welcome. And for the business environment, we've decided that we have to make the information available to the private sector, so that if you want to go to Ghana, I had a meeting yesterday with somebody, and before we started the meeting, he was telling me a lot about Ghana. I was laughing, and he's here to go to Ghana. And I said, where did you get all this information? He said, I visited a portal, I was searching about Ghana, and I got into a portal, Business Regulatory Reform portal, and I studied most of the institutions, the regulations that had been uploaded there, and I got my information from there. So in a glance, you can visit this portal. It's Business Regulatory Reform portal, www.brr.gov.gh. We've managed to upload almost business regulated programs in Ghana on the portal. So maybe before you contact my brother here for investment support in Ghana, you can get some of the information, your basic information, and you go to him for interpretation of some of the things that you may not understand in Ghana. And another thing is also, as much as we want the private sector, the small-scale businesses, to pay their taxes on time or to be compliance, let me put it that way, we really need to support them. And that's why we are going digital in most of our programs in Ghana. And most of our institutions, we are going digital. Paying your taxes, we are going digital. We've also completed in developing a system whereby I'm hoping by beginning of next year, if you want to register a company in Ghana, you don't need to go to Ghana before you can register. We've had a system developed, and we are testing, so that when you register your company, you get your certificate, everything online to you. So we are making everything conducive so that the private sector can take decisions easily. And when we come to specific areas that you can also invest, just yesterday I was studying University of Science and Technology, Kwabna Painting University of Science and Technology. And I got to know that the students' intake is just increasing, but the accommodation very, very, very low. So if somebody is looking to enter into a program like this, you are humbly welcome. And my brothers, my colleagues are here. They are in Ghana now. They can support you to be able to do something of that sort. And my colleague from Investment Bank mentioned exports, special economic zones. We want to develop a special economic zone in Buankra, and government is looking for private sector partnership to be able to develop it. And it's a huge investment that you can partner and then come together and do business in Ghana. There are lots of opportunities. Because of time, maybe I'll have to end here. And I'm here, Ghana High Commission, and I'll give you my, my contact. Anytime I operate open door policy. Unless I'm in a meeting that when you call me, you may not get me. But when you send me a WhatsApp, immediately I'm done, I'm back to you. So that any assistance that you need to invest in Ghana, we are there to support you. And I always say, Ghana is one of the peaceful places you can live. Ghana is one of the peaceful places you can live. I hear people talking about our economy. Economy, there's no way we can have a straight line in anybody's life. And economies of countries just like that. In as much as our lives, we don't have straight line. We don't go like this. You go this way, come this way, go this way, come this way. But business people, we always know how to make our profit, isn't it? We know how to make our profit. And there's a sector in Ghana that is completely green. Whenever I mention it, somebody goes like, "By your culture?" I say, "Yes, our culture. How I wish my mother is with me here." Instead of being called all the time that, oh, somebody has just left home saying she wouldn't stay again, a caretaker. But if I have, let's say, a care home in Ghana that I can peacefully take my mother to, and then I can only be monitoring my mother from the managers, I'll be so glad. I will be so glad. Not that somebody get up one day and say, "I'm leaving." And then now I have to be calling people around to be able to get somebody to go and take care of my mom. So if you are here and interested in partnerships, partnering with somebody to have a sector like that develop in Ghana, it's completely green. What is going on is we have nurses who have created a system whereby if your mother, you want somebody to go and take care of your mom, now somebody is taking care of my auntie in Accra, and I need somebody in Kumasi, you know, can you imagine? So if they are all in one place, I'll get somebody taking care of my mom and my auntie at the same time, and I will work peacefully. So if you are interested in getting into a care home too, we'll talk later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Diana Addo. So you have it. Some live, very live opportunities for investments in Ghana. This morning, we have sought to discuss or explore opportunities in Ghana's investment landscape through various lenses. I believe we've been able to complete our task, not so well, but we have done our bit. I'll, at this point, invite questions from all of you. You can direct your questions to, yes, but I'll take them. Okay.
Very nice. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, thank you very much. Looking at Ghana produces is the biggest gold producer in Africa, now exceeding South Africa. So you're talking of 120 tons of gold a year, of which half is artisanal production. I know there's the gold bod, which was recently done, but here you're talking of 60 tons of gold, which is produced in Kumasi, Ashanti, up country, which the people in Accra don't know the first thing about, unless they've got an aunt who lives up there. But there's a huge wealth of gold in the country, and there isn't one gold company listed on the Ghanaian Stock Exchange, which is domestic. So where are the locals? This is the big issue for Ghana, and he's got to face it. Then you can go on and say, how about the restructuring of Tema Oil Refinery? How about the electricity company, where 1/3 of its revenue is a government grant? Here you are as a country, and you're subsidizing urban consumers of electricity, and with people's tax payments. I would get rather annoyed if I was a local there. Here you are subsidizing people to run their electricity. You've got to get a grip on things, especially in the public sector, and get some of these gold mines listed. The Johannesburg Stock Exchange had most probably 100 gold mines listed a century ago. I mean, Ghana's got to wake up. I mean, never mind what you've been talking about. The value is created in the large companies who pay their taxes. So have a look at the formal gold mine companies in Ghana, and then replicate this so that you can do it for the Ghanaian companies.
Thank you very much. Incidentally, we have with us part of the Ghanaian contingent to AFSIC this year. We have the Minerals Income Investment Fund with us. I will, with your kind permission, Mr. Barnin, would you want to comment on that before I come back to... Sorry. So about the gold the fact that we don't have local gold producing companies listed on the Ghana Stock Exchange.
This is a big question, but let me make an attempt at it. Sorry? Well, I mean, I don't know whether you know about MIF, the Minerals Income Investment Fund, but our whole strategy is to invest. We are the foremost investment arm of the government of Ghana, looking specifically at entire mining value chain. And the idea is to identify companies, companies that are keen to upscale, and we walk that journey with them. And one of the preconditions of our investing in them is for them to list on the Ghana Stock Exchange. So I would say it's work in progress. We are not at the tail end of it. We're walking the journey, and clearly we'll need partners like the group here to work with us on that journey. So that's what I can add to it. Yes.
Thank you very much. Yes, David.
So there is Asante Gold, which is a Ghanaian initiative, which is listed on the Ghana Stock Exchange. So that's the first one. No, the Asante is a Ghanaian, not Ashanti Gold. I'm talking about Asante, yes.
Sorry, your what?
So that's a Ghanaian company that's listed on the exchange. And I do know that there has been some changes in the local content mining laws as well, which require all mining companies, local or foreign, that are undertaking a certain amount in capex to list or to raise part of that equity on the stock exchange. What remains is enforcement. I know because I've worked with the Minerals Commission and MIF as well on some of these, and the stock exchange. So that is local content law that has been passed. Once we start with the enforcement, a lot of it will come. But yes, you are right. There's a lot more that can be done to get some of these local companies to come through. But we are at the early stages of some of that happening.
Right, and I wanted to comment on the revenue mobilization. So we're doing a lot of work. The UK-Ghana Chamber of Commerce we are delivering a program to help the Ministry of Finance and the Ghana Revenue Authority to increase revenue mobilization. Yes, and we're putting a lot of effort in there, so we will get there soon. It's with kind contribution from the UK government anyway. So yes, they're providing the capacity for the officials of Ghana Revenue Authority and our tax policy officials as well. Yeah. Okay, any questions? Yeah. Okay. I will take the lady. Okay. Sure. Yes, that's a mic. Okay. Sure.
Thank you, everyone, for your comments, for your insights as well. I've mentioned in a couple other forums that my focus is on aviation. My name is Sasha Lightborn. I own aviation and aerospace consultancy. And I also spoke about the immense opportunity that Africa has in the next 15 to 20 years. The aviation industry for the country is projected to double. That's a lot of growth in a very short time frame, which obviously presents quite a bit of risk. But Boeing, Airbus, ICAO, IATA, Embraer, all of the major players agree that Africa is the #3 growth market for aviation. 345 million is the projected passenger throughput. Ghana, out of the entire continent here that's going to be innovating around aviation, Ghana has a substantial opportunity. It is geographically positioned for very strong intra-Western Africa trade. This is an opportunity that a lot of other countries in Africa do not have. So I am curious to know how Ghana is capitalizing on that opportunity, how well informed the government is and stakeholders are, and are they mobilizing resources to take advantage of the opportunity? Thank you.
Thank you. The mic back. Antonina, do you want to take that? Okay. And then Musa, if you could take that.
So in terms of aviation, it hasn't been left out of the scheme of initiatives, and there are conversations to even establish a national carrier because of this sort of geolocation advantage, and then also political stability. As you've rightly mentioned, we connect to most part of the, the sub-region. Currently, if you take Emirates, when you get to Dubai, those going to Cote d'Ivoire would have to, join those going to Ghana. So that comes to even exemplify the advantage that you are talking about. And there has been significant investment even in the preparations of the airline industry. We have Terminal 3 now, which has expanded significantly, and there is no carrier that cannot be accommodated. We also have the Terminal 2, which also is also available, and then plans are underway to even establish an aviation school over there to be able to train more pilots. And once more pilots are being trained in Ghana, obviously I think that we would have been taking advantage of the airline industry. So those who are interested in coming to Ghana to really do business in the airline industry, there is space for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Musa. Anyone on the panel? David?
Yes,
will that be okay? Oh, right. Sure.
I'm Sander. I'm an entrepreneur in Ghana for a couple of years right now. So I'm producing toilet paper from bamboo in Ghana with farmers. So I was part of the 1D 1F. Now it's gone. Now I'm importing new machinery, which I'm struggling to find the way how I have to do it. I don't know, everybody knows Kofi. I know he's a good friend of us, but like he's also struggling to get like what are the new rules and when is it getting there? Because it's a lot of money. So we've had some 8 million in new machinery, so that can raise them like 25% into that.
Is the machine?
Is the machine, have you exported it to Ghana already?
Not yet, no. So we're waiting for
the new
clarity.
Clarity, okay, okay. Can we talk later on that?
I think mine is not a response to it per se, but clearly there's a gap, because following change in government was the quote-unquote the termination of the 1D 1F arrangement, and my bank has financed some corporates in the space. So clearly, I think Madam is here, and hopefully she helps us with the message. There has to be something that the existing companies who already were benefiting for some waiver of import duties, etc., on the importation of machineries to be dealt with. And some of these gaps, no matter how well intended they are, indirectly affect the bank. So if you're a financial institution, you've supported a company, they are importing equipment, and you're expecting a tax waiver on that because that was the original arrangement, and all of a sudden there's a policy gap, that has its own implications. So I think it's a point that has to be elevated in terms of discussion for some of these to be addressed very quickly, because it exposes, it's a huge portfolio in there as far as the 1D 1F program is concerned. And so I think it is worth considering and looking at, yes.
Thank you very much. Because I know the ministry is in talk with the 24-hour economy.
Yes.
Because we really need to pass that.
Yeah, it's the transition, which is
transition
something like that. Yeah.
But it will be done soon.
Sure.
Hope it won't affect you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions? Right, please go ahead.
This is a Ghanaian perspective, especially to the bankers, because sometimes it looks like it's more difficult to borrow for SMEs to borrow in Ghana. Are there any new initiatives the bankers are developing to help local SMEs borrow a bit more easy? Because from our side,
Yeah. Oh, okay. Let me try. So let me provide a response. So clearly there is a challenge in the SME sector, MSME sector. I think about 75% of, there's a funding gap where 3 out of every 4 companies do not have either access to finance at all or access to the full finance that they need and actually require. So the intervention approach, a number of things have been tried, a number. But the approach now is not necessarily to start with the lending, because as you could hear from the conversation, a number of these are not ready at all. So there is an approach to support capacity building to make them ready. And this is not capacity building, the traditional capacity, it's access to bookkeeping, technology. I mean, if you were to operate the traditional way as an SME vis-a-vis another that is adopting a heavy dose of technology, from day one you are at a disadvantage. Access to markets is part of the training and facilitation that we are providing currently, because then you need to have the offtake to be able to produce more as you would require. Complemented with this is then the access to finance. So intentionally, access to finance has been put on the back burner, not because the banks do not have the financing capacity to support businesses with. The readiness of businesses is very, very critical. Look, we did some 1D, 1F projects, as he said, and very quickly, they don't have the financing or the appetite of the bank to lend. You can't run a business 100% on debt, right? Then the capacity of the business owner to continually provide some element of equity is also constrained. And once typically, and it becomes like a cyclical challenge, where then the banks are shocked, then they don't want to play in the sector. Capacity building, even for the banks, is one probably I didn't touch on, technical assistance. If you come to the area of agric, one of the challenges we have observed, and now we have a full-fledged agribusiness desk, which we traditionally haven't had. But banks generally do not understand agric. Forget the sophistication. They can do gold. They can do almost every other thing. But there's this perception that agriculture is planting and harvesting, but it's much more so than that. So there's a lot of engagement with our East African partners, Southern Africa partners, where agriculture is real agriculture. And then the banks throughout the chain, from the credit officers to even the boards who sometimes participate in credits, would then understand the credit for what it is, as opposed to looking at an agriculture credit similar to a commercial lending to a commercial customer. So there are a number of initiatives. We've spoken about concessional funding. If these initiatives are not undertaken the way it is intended to, in a holistic manner, I'm telling you, there would perpetually be a challenge. So yes, a lot is being done, but the direction has changed. I've spoken about digitalization and everything, and that is where the new approach has been, to change the way we have done things traditionally in the past, yes.
Okay, maybe just to add quickly to this, my brother, try and keep your books right. Try and go to GRA at the right time. When you come, and then let us know where you live. Okay, let us know where your shop or your company is. Once we get to know you very well, we will not be asking for security before we give you money. Thank you.
A small rebuttal. I don't know if it's the right forum, so we'll talk later.
That's fine. That's fine.
Thank you for that. But Kwabna, you wanted to come in?
I also wanted
then
to.
Then we will soon wrap up.
I think the, and I understand simply because I think you and I had a chat about your kind of business and what you do. And I think also earlier on the panel, our two bankers also touched on some of the limitations that sit within the banking structure itself. I think in the longer term, a lot of these things will be balanced out once they can find longer and longer or capital that can be lent for a longer period. But in the interim, there are solutions that allow you to be able to leverage on what sort of lending structure that you're looking for. And we've been able to successfully deploy that in Ghana, because I can leverage on his funds to be able to provide you with maybe a longer tenured fund. If I can do a 4 or 5 year lending instrument for you where he would be constrained. And I think so long as you can bring us together more and more, we should be able to partner, because I can give you tenure. He may be limited by tenure. I can give you repayment structure. His books probably won't be able to take it, because investment banking and banking are different. So you need to use both avenues to be able to leverage on what sort of financing that you're looking for. And that, I think that then addresses the issue of having access to the money.
And one thing I will add is, I think as we move on, the banks will also will start thinking about this off-taker mindset. Because as we move on, the digitalization is taking place. People are doing their business online. They have their businesses all over because I can order a product here. I have a friend now in Ghana, and the products are being ordered everywhere in the world because she's online. And if I don't have off-taker to off-take my product to UK or US, but I have businesses moving outside, I think as time goes on, the businesses and the banks also should begin thinking along this line and see how best we can help our company. She got order recently to US and then even to UK because the person contacted me, have some of her products. And now she just produced, we have to bring them here. So imagine she has the product here already, and then let's say the time that she was asked to produce, if she was having the product in shop, she could have brought it immediately. But because of funds, she produced and is going online. Immediately somebody order a little, let's say, some packs, then she's stuck. So those people, we should think how we can support them.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Ado. So what I'm taking from here is that it's important to form partnerships. It's important to strengthen the partnerships that we have already and see how best we can blend some of the financing opportunities for our clients and customers. Thank you very much. It's been some time. We've had a good time, I believe, interacting with our panelists on the investment climate, investment outlook from various perspectives, from the legal, the commercial, the financing, the deals, the live opportunities and all of that. And I believe that you've all found our summit a very useful and valuable one. Thank you all.
To say something. Sorry to cut you. Please, the gold board issue. I remember our elderly father mentioned it. Please, those who are here, if anybody wants to sell gold to you, especially those of you who are not in Ghana, don't take it. Don't take it. You must go through Gold Board directly. And we'll be having a program with Gold Board before the end of the year. We want Gold Board to come and then we organize a program at the Ghana High Commission. We invite most of you to be there. And I get the request all the time. People telling people that they can sell gold to them from Ghana. It is no more there. Please, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Ado. Indeed, your first contact, if you are in the UK or in Europe, if you want to do business with Ghana, is a trade department, trade and investment department at the Ghana High Commission here in London. Thank you all so much for attending our summit. Thank you. Thank you to our panelists as well.